just letting you want to get Kayte on and chance that I can talk to Kayte? Okay, all right, bring her on while we figure that out. Kayte Christensen live from Philadelphia. Good morning, Kayte.
Good morning.
Hey, can I just say before we start the interview, thanks for joining us.
Okay.
What? I'm being nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Kayte, I know that you've been doing this job for a very long time. I was that sounded like an old joke. I mean that you have been. This is not your first rodeo, and you've been to every city and you've done all the stuff. But do you still, like in Philadelphia, for example, are you like, I'm going to this restaurant, I'm getting a cheesecake, I'm doing? Do you try to do something, or are we just doing the hotel stuff?
It just depends on our travel schedule and what the weather's like. But there is, every city, there's kind of a place that you know and you like to go to. I actually went to this mac and cheese shop yesterday that I always go to. And I walked over there and it's closed now. So I was like, bummer.
And then,
of course, good story, huh?
Well, no, I'm just saying when you go on these road trips, though, what people don't realize, or maybe they don't think about, because I know I don't until it happens, is you're on the road for what, like a week and a half. And on top of that, anyone that would be going to the East Coast for that long, especially with the weather as it is right now, you're packing very warm clothes, which, by the way, are thicker and bigger than normal clothes. So then there's that you have to deal with in your suitcase. But also,
I look like a complete bum. I can verify that, like layered, like multiple hats and gloves, and just like I look like a bum.
But and that's fine. But here's what I wonder with you, and I'm not. This is going to sound like misogynist adjacent, and it really isn't. You just correct me if I'm wrong here. Like Mark or Kyle, they can pack like 2 suits, and then they have to just switch their ties and their collared shirts. Whereas you, correct me if I'm wrong, have to wear a different outfit for every single game. So is packing for a long trip like pretty much a nightmare for you in this scenario? Because it's not like you can also roll up whatever clothing you're wearing and that you're going to wear on the air and just stuff it in your bag. Like it has to be all laid out.
Yeah, no, it's I've been doing it long enough now that I'm fairly, proficient at it. But yeah, like I don't wear the same outfit twice at any point in the season. So it's also like, I tag them after I wear them, put them back in my closet so I know what I've worn. And then, I learned it a long time ago. You have to pack like 1 or 2 extra outfits on the long trips just in case something happens, like a zipper breaks or you get something on your outfit, like anything like that. So it's a little bit more extensive, I imagine, than my male counterparts, David.
Okay, and then lastly, by the way, Jason, are we good?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
All right, lastly,
because I was
Jason. I was vamping it first, but now I have a closing question. Then we'll get to Kings talk.
Okay,
something just clicked with me. Hold on. So, if you don't wear the same outfit at any point during the season, that means that you have 82 plus, whether it's playoffs or preseason outfits that you wear per season. You've been doing this, I think, at least 10 years. Whether it's sideline or
it's almost 8. I think it's my 17th or 18th season. Yeah.
Okay, I was trying not to age you, Kayte. Anyways, That's 800 and okay, so that's well over 1,000 outfits. That's
no. You're losing your mind. I don't wear the same outfits in a season. So years ago when I started doing this, obviously I had nothing but like sweatpants, right? I had no like business clothes, if you will. So over the years, I've just, I buy things that are kind of like not trendy, but like classic so that it's never going to go out of style. So like, yeah, there's stuff from like my first season here in like 2006 that I'm still wearing today, but I'll only wear it once a year.
Hey, as you say that, though, Kayte, I'm thinking like coaches, I don't think they're going back to the suits. They've gone to...
No,
so
they'll never go back.
Why? I don't know. I know it's TV and there's a professionalism to it, I guess, but I don't know. Why isn't it transferred to the broadcasters?
Great question, Jason.
Yeah, It is a great question. I actually asked about that a couple years ago. Like, hey, like, are we ever going to go to like a polo shirt or whatever, like during COVID and all that? And that was a hard no.
I'd go a step further. Like, is anybody going to watch Mark and Katie in hoodies and go, "Oh, this broadcast is terrible"? Like, they might say the broadcast is terrible or great or whatever, but I don't think it's going to be because someone's wearing a stinking hoodie. Would you be for that? Would you do a broadcast in a hoodie and shorts or sweats and be fine with that? Or do you think you'd still dress up?
No, I mean, I don't think I would ever like, in my normal like state, like I'm not going to be like, well, why can't I wear yoga pants and a sweatshirt? I think there's like a level of like, professionalism in how you present yourself. And a lot of different networks do different things and whatnot. But I think, the thing that's always kind of puzzled me, and I don't know if it's a female thing or whatever, is there's just like in general, a lot of, what's the word for it, to put it diplomatically? There's a lot of attention kind of focused on specifically like what women wear in broadcasting. And I've always been mesmerized by people's comments and their thoughts. And it's like, wow, like it always makes me wonder, like, does someone in your office, like in the cubicle next to you, be like, oh, I don't like the cut of that neckline. You know what I mean?
Well,
and
those are
I
weirdos.
get that stuff.
No, those are weirdos, but pulling the curtain fully back here, because she's diplomatic and I'm not. You and I got in an argument once about your choice of wardrobe, and it had nothing to do with you being a lady or anything like that. The only time I've ever said
it's about what color I'm wearing, right?
Yes, you were wearing an orange dress on opening night versus the Suns, and I took offense.
Yeah, because you're a tool. Yeah. But no, honestly though, like a lot of people are like, why are you wearing red? That's the color of the opponent. It's like, so you factor in all of these things, right? Like my wardrobe is like 18, 20 years old, whatever. It's 20 years old because there was 3 years where I wasn't here, right? So I add a little bit every year. And like, think about it. I'm 45 years old now. I was 25 when I started this job. I'm still wearing stuff that I was wearing when I was 25. But as we all know, we change. Our bodies change as we get older. Like that's another thing that's like difficult to manage. So it's like, okay, so say like 25 of my dresses don't fit me the way that I like anymore. So then you eliminate those and you put them to another side of the closet because you're like, maybe someday I'll be that weight again or whatever. But then it's like, I can't wear the same dress, twice. You go on road trips, the weather is involved, like all these things. And so then I have to add like another thing of like, I can't wear that color. And listen, I do it because of people's reactions and whatnot. I probably shouldn't. Sometimes I'm just like, they'll just have to deal with it. But like on this trip, like I packed a certain number of outfits and I'm sitting there in each city going like, well, I can't wear this one because of the color. And then, well, their color is this color in the next couple games. So I'm going to have to wear that dress on this game. And it's like, it just is like, really? Like I have more important things to focus on in my mind than that. But yeah, you're right. You were one of those idiots that was concerned with that.
One time.
One time.
Yeah. Well,
one time.
No, not one time. Just one time that you dared mention it.
I want to say one more thing on the fashion part, Katie. I noticed this on all the games blend together, as you know. It was one of the games on the homestand here recently, on the long homestand. We're up in the radio perch and looking down. You're about to do the stand or the open with Mark, and you both were wearing what I would say is the same cut, like burgundy or maroon. Yeah. Did that just happen, or did you guys plan that?
It happens all the time. It happens all the time. I joked with him the last time probably was that game. Like, you know how like dogs and their owners start to look alike, like that. I'm like, is this our version of like, now we're starting to like dress alike without like planning it in advance? And I think that game, like multiple people, came in the same like burgundy, and I had multiple people ask like, did you all plan that? And I was like, no, this is literally just kind of happened on its own, natural, organic.
Kayte Christensen joining us from Philadelphia. And if I'm being honest, if it's up to me, this is the rest of the interview, 100%. But someone's going to be like, talk about the Kings, blah, blah, blah. All right, so we'll talk about the Kings. Kayte, it seems that I don't want to say a theme because there's been all kinds of ups and downs this year, but whether it's Detroit, whether it's New York, there seems to be that quarter, that mystery quarter that happens. And it's like, if you look at the score for the other three quarters, it's a pretty close game. Maybe the Kings are ahead. Then there's like, 44-19 in the third or whatever it is. How much of that is obviously give credit to the other team? They're good and they're going to do these things, but is it a focus thing? Can you put your finger on why the Kings are so prone to that?
And I hate to say this, it's a good question.
Wow.
But honestly, I think we all get so focused on like a current season or a current period of time throughout a season where there's things that kind of line up and they're like, oh, this is becoming a theme, right? But you kind of forget that every season there's that. Like a couple years ago, it was like the first quarter was kind of the rough one. It's like for every team, and I would be willing to say that in every team in every sport, this kind of happens. And for whatever reason, with the identity of that team, it kind of, there is that one quarter or half that is like kind of an issue. All right. And I feel like the Kings have been really solid on a consistent basis in first halves this year. Second halves have been a different story. And predominantly, I think it's been the third quarter, but there has been a fair number of fourth quarters where it's carried over to that quarter, and the third quarter has been solid. It's a combination of things. It's a combination of just kind of focus in the sense that you can relax a little bit as an athlete and as a team when you've come out and you've done a really good job. And then, there's that break at halftime, which, it's important to have. I understand why they have it, all this stuff. But a lot of times I'm like, God, I wish they could just go straight into the third quarter because I know what's coming, right? There's that letdown. And, it's like it's stoppage and play for an extended period of time. And then you expect them to come out with the same level of momentum and just carry it straight into the second half. And it just doesn't generally start that way on a consistent basis. And so, I think there's a lot of different things that factor into it. You have to, give credit to other teams in terms of, they go in and they make adjustments at halftime. And technology these days is so crazy in the sense that, you can pull up a play immediately on the bench during a timeout, right? That just happened. And you can look at it and evaluate it and you can show it to the players. Well, halftime, they have a whole reel of stuff that they watch and things that they make adjustments to, and they can change their game plan. And so technology, I think, has allowed for teams in every sport to be able to make much better adjustments. And I think that factors into it as well.
Kayte, where they are standings-wise, obviously it's not where the team wants to be, but it's been a tough year. There's no other way to say it. But I think about even like this most recent game and the mix of what they have, where it seems like they're trying to play and get a little bit longer look at some of the younger guys, especially with some of the veterans that they have. But I think of the veterans like whether it's Russ or Levine or Monk or Sabonis, and then this last game, DeRozan, who was just so good in the game that trying to incorporate the young guys while still having the veterans that can really play and have a night like DeRozan did. I feel like it's such a weird spot that they're in. It's the spot they've been in all year, really. But I don't know. How do you think they're navigating this, not losing the veterans while still incorporating these young guys?
Well, I think that, you look at the start of the season and we all have expectations or things that we think are kind of going to happen. And then it just generally doesn't work out that way, right? I don't think anyone expected the three rookies to factor that much into bulk minutes throughout the course of the season, right? And injuries have allowed that to happen. It's allowed extended looks and opportunity and development, really, And I can see because, listen, our Sacramento fans are great. They are very involved But I don't know how many fans actually watch every minute of every game throughout the course of a season because, life and responsibilities and work and kids sports and all that stuff. And so, when I look at it, I thought coming into the season that it would be a certain way. Injuries have changed that. We've gotten an extended look at some of these rookies and their development. That's a positive of this season, right? It gives the opportunity for their developmental process to be kind of, on crack, if you will. They're getting a really good opportunity, extended minutes, time, and experience against teams of veteran players, and then also that time with veteran players, so that they can figure out kind of their role, and then their roles are expanded. Nique in the starting lineup the last couple games has been a much different kind of output than we saw early in the season, and even his last start kind of more recently was December 11th against Denver. And even from that point to now, which is just a little, 5 or 6 weeks or whatever, he's much more suited in that role. And you can see how far he's come along. And that's a positive thing. But it is a challenge, I think, for also saying, okay, well, based on where we are in the standings right now, this team is not a play-in team, not a playoff team. So what are the priorities? Also, you've got this trade deadline looming and dealing with all of that and what could happen and who's going to be here, who's not going to be here. I think we all came into the season knowing this is a new front office. This team is going to be heading in a different direction. But so much of that has to do with the ability to move players, bring in new talent, younger players kind of that match a roster where you're developing some younger guys like the rookies and some of these, second, third year guys, and where do they fit in the future? And I think it's all a big question mark, and it always is going to be, because we can sit here and say, maybe you don't want 3 36-year-olds that are on, whatever their contracts are and so on and so forth, because that doesn't match up with the timeline of guys that you're trying to develop. Yeah, but how are we supposed to say, well, just move them? That's not really how it works. It's not that easy in sports, right? It's about other teams and their value and what they mean to them and their long-term plan in terms of the time left on their contract, the money, the luxury tax, the second apron, like all of these things factor in. And to me, it's just become so utterly complicated because of all of those things. So I know a lot of people think about this, talk about it, and I understand you guys wanting to ask me. I'm really glad that my job is purely about analyzing kind of what's going on the floor, because all of that outside minutia, if you will, it's so utterly complex. And coming from like a background as a player, it's hard for me to focus on those things, because as a player, your only focus is who's in your locker room, who's available, who's on the floor, and kind of who your opponent is and how do you approach that. So I imagine for these guys that there's a level where that just adds a whole nother element that is challenging, but it's just part of professional sports,
Kayte Christensen joining us. One of the questions we get asked the most is about Doug. Is Doug a good coach? Is Doug a bad coach? Fire Doug, keep Doug, whatever. And of course, I'm never going to put you in that position, but I want to ask you philosophically. I'm looking at a coach that was 80-171 in his final 4 seasons. 80-171, and missed the playoffs 6 consecutive years. And before that, made the playoffs, but was one and done. 80-171. And I find myself wondering when I look at that sometimes, did Greg Popovich forget how to coach? Did Pop in the later years just...
I knew that's what you were talking about.
Did he?
Okay,
did he
so
just,
I appreciate you trying to beat around the bush on this and use analogies and all of that. I have no problem straight out answering the question just bluntly for you. I don't think Doug is a bad coach. I don't think the record and kind of what he's done in his time is a reflection of the type of coach he is or will be. I know that young coaches do go and first-time head coaches, it is much, much different going from one seat over to that head chair. There is so many more things that you have to deal with, and it is not just about the things on the floor, in between the lines. It's everything from scheduling and flights and practices and shoot-arounds and how are you going to approach this. Like, Doug has made some changes in terms of, okay, like, shoot-arounds are one thing that has shifted. Like, there's not a shoot-around every game day. It depends on the schedule, right? Yesterday, the team was able to practice and do a full kind of game scout in terms of how they're going to approach and defend and how they're going to attack Philly's defense, and they were able to do that in practice yesterday. But we play Philly today, Boston tomorrow, have a day off in Washington, a full day off. No practice, no nothing, and then play at Washington to close out the trip. So there's an optional shoot around today for kind of that stay ready crew or anyone else that wants to go and get shots up. But the scout happened yesterday in practice. And a lot of that is because you're managing what not just today is, but what the next several days are. And that's something a head coach has to deal with, and they have to find kind of their philosophy and their groove with that. And then you're also coaching a team that doesn't necessarily fit your philosophy as a coach, right? So you also have to make adjustments to that while also working towards implementing the culture and the philosophy that you want, and that's the stamp you're trying to put on your team. So it's a process in terms of, you can't, like, to get to the Greg Popovich analogy, you can't say that he wasn't a great coach the last several years because of the record. That organization was heading in a different direction, which is now we're developing young guys. They had the fantastic luck with David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and then Victor Wembanyama of drafting number one freaking franchise, players at certain phases. And they were able to, and one, if I believe with Tim Duncan, if memory serves, that was because there was injuries the year before. It wasn't because they were a rebuilding team, right? Same thing kind of happened with Golden State the years that Steph and Clay got hurt. They got Moses Moody and they got James Wiseman and they got Jonathan Kuminga. When based on the franchise and where they were at that time, no one ever expected that. Injuries caused that. So, no, Pop is a great coach. There's no question about that. But also the franchise was heading in a direction where they were in a spot where they hadn't been in a long time, which was where they're now rebuilding a young roster. And the Kings have a combination of young players and they have a combination of older players that aren't a part of their long-term future, but they're a part of the future, the present right now. So Doug's having to deal with all of this stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, I get people's opinions and everyone is entitled to them, but I'll also put it this way. In the, 17 seasons that I've been, covering this team in Sacramento, and it's really been over the course of 20 years, what has there been, like 15 different head coaches or something like that? Like, yeah. At some point you have to decide you're going to ride with someone, you're going to allow them to develop with your team as your team grows and develops, and you establish the culture that you want moving forward. And I think what's his name in Oklahoma City is a really great example of that. And why am I blanking on their head coach's name right now? No. In Oklahoma City?
Yeah, Mark Dagnall.
Mark Dagnall.
Oh, Mark Dagnall. Yeah. I thought you said Daniels. I'm like, what? Who are you talking about? Yes, but he started off as a G League coach for them with their G League team. They moved him into the head chair. I think they won like 14 or 17 games the first year he was there, but he was establishing and building the culture that they were on the same page with. And they were developing young players that they drafted. And now look at where they're at. Now, am I saying the Kings are going to be Oklahoma City in 4 years? I'm not saying that. Don't get it twisted. But I'm saying that, there is definitely a thing of where at some point you have to choose to say, hey, I'm going to establish a culture, a philosophy, and I'm going to give it a legitimate opportunity to grow coaches with players, and you go from there.
Well, that's a great answer to the question. Also, we're out of time. Can I just say that was not going to be my Doug Christie question, but that's fine. It was a good answer. I was just going to ask you. I highly doubt it.
Well, you know what, Dave? Write it down for next week, and then maybe we can talk about it then.
I was just going to ask you if you thought he looked better with or without hair. That's all. That's all I was going to ask.
You're so
you went on,
ridiculous.
Kayte Christensen
You're so
live from
ridiculous.
Philadelphia. Check her out tonight on the broadcast. Hey, fly safe, Kayte, and hurry home and stay warm.
All right, you guys, take care.
Thank you.
All right, take care. That's Kayte Christensen. We'll take a break. I mean, geez,
Wow.
what I do, Jason. When we come back, what are we doing here? 4 down territory? Is
Yeah,
that what
let's
we're
do
doing?
that.
All right, 4 down territory. Mattress Mac is back in the news. What do Mattress Mac, University of California, Berkeley, George Kittle, and 75% of current NFL head coaches, what do they all have in common? They're all